Good morning and welcome to this second session on day two of the CAPM. This morning, we have a very special guest today with us, Mr. Tarun Bajaj, Secretary, Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance. The session would be moderated by Mr. Shardul Shroff, Chairman, FICCI Committee on Stressed Assets, and Executive Director, Shardul Mangaldas and Co. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Bajaj, today. We know that you have a very tight schedule this morning, so I will not take any more time, but just hand it over to the chair to take it further. So thank you and welcome once again.
Thank you, Dilip. Honorable Secretary DA, Shri Tarun Bajaj, my longtime friend and senior lawyer, Shri Shardul Shroff, my colleagues at FICCI, Secretary General FICCI, members of media, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to you all at CAPM 2020 Day 2. As I mentioned yesterday, we are trying to make this virtual experience much richer for you. I hope you got a chance to explore some of the facilities that the FICCI has put together for this conference. Honorable Secretary, we could not have had a better start for the day than your presence. The capital markets have been looking for your first public address as Secretary DEA. We all know you in your different avatars over a period of time, but this position directly involves capital markets. So, sir, a quick recap of proceedings of yesterday. Through the day yesterday, we covered a lot of grounds and some very interesting things came up. We had a session with this Honorable Chairman SEBI, and he stressed upon the importance of the bond market, particularly the importance of retailing GSEC. And he talked about dematerialization of GSEC so that it can be made available to public at large. We put forward a couple of suggestions from our side. We talked about the importance of deepening of our market. Currently, our markets are concentrated in what we call it B30, the top 30 cities. There is a need that we go beyond 30. If you look at the mutual fund AUM, 85% of it comes from the top 30 cities. Less than 3% of our public participates in the equity market directly. The technology is now enabling us to really go direct and go out to a larger population. We also put forward a suggestion on new products, particularly convert and warrants. And finally, we made a point around rule-based transaction versus transaction-based rules. This will facilitate innovation. We will elaborate on all of them and can give you much more detailed submissions. Thereafter, we had a session with Honorable CA of Ministry of Finance. He articulated his vision of economy. He talked about the banking sector, importance of banking sector, and the growth pillars going forward. Honorable Secretary Deepam laid out the plan for his department, including strategic disinvestment, some real privatization, listing of remaining PSUs, including LIC. We also touched upon the privatization of banking sector. Honorable Secretary, there is one area which market is clearly looking forward to some guidance from you, is as follows. We all know that the revenue of the Government of India for the current year is likely to be significantly lower than where it was budgeted. We also know because of the unfortunate situation, the expenditure will go up. The economy is going to shrink and therefore fiscal deficit will go up. What is the plan? And I'm sure you are thinking about it and you have some plans. But what is the plan of the Government of India? And articulation of that is hugely important. As Secretary General said, that the way we structured this session, we will immediately come to you with request you to address us, and then Mr. Shroff will interact with you. We do have a way to get some questions from media and the public. The protocol for sending your questions is through the chat box. We will try and accommodate as many questions as possible given the paucity of time. May I now invite Honorable Secretary DA Shri Tarun Bajaj to address us.
Thank you so much. And I'm indeed very happy to be participating in this FICCI event. And it is interesting times, and it shows the flexibility that the human mind and the human being has, that we have adjusted so fast and so soon to this new normal. And one could have never imagined that you would have a virtual meet with more participants than you would have in a physical meet. So congratulations on that, of whatever feedback I've got from the FICCI meet of the first day. You have also given me a general brief of what my colleagues have spoken. So very subtly, you have told me not to touch those topics. So I'll try and not do so. So I was yesterday in the morning when I went through the papers, and actually I read a little bit of what my colleagues had spoken. So I just thought I will perhaps take the cue from what you said at the end. I'll generally tell you what has been happening, or what are the feelings that, or the evaluation that we have in the finance ministry about the present situation. How do we see the next year and the year thereafter coming up? What are the steps we have taken and why we have taken those steps? And in case there are some other things that need to be done, I'll also dwell on them. What I'll do is, since I'm short of time, I'll like to leave by 10:40, 10:45. So I'll try to make my address a little brief so that I can answer a few questions, so that I can answer the areas in which you are interested rather than giving you the areas that I am interested in. So starting, I think even before March, when COVID really hit us, there were some good signals on the economy that were coming up, though there were also some stress that was visible. But nevertheless, the figures that I've seen after coming here, I found that January and February were showing some promising results on certain parameters of the economy. March, we went for a big lockdown. I would acknowledge that our lockdown may have been the severest in the world, and it had its effect on the economy. In the month of March and April, especially, our economy was under stress. This is also visible from the fact that when the results for the March ending came out, our growth came out to be 4.2% and our fiscal deficit at 4.6%. So even 1 month of disruption did cause us some stress. I think in June, when we decided to open up the economy, June and July, those have been promising months, more promising than we had initially thought in the Ministry of Finance. And I say this, we are actually monitoring about 14 to 15 parameters which can give us an early sign of where the economy is going: the e-way bills, the power consumption, the railway freight traffic, GST collections, and things like that. And everything was showing a promising result. I would also like to say, on June 15, our first installment of the advance tax is due. And the figures that came in, the revenues that were collected during that month, gave us a promise that this year, if we continue in this manner and we are not saddled with any more surprises, may not be as bad as the economy, as the outside world thinks, or as we were thinking. We will not be able to achieve our BE figures, which you had mentioned, but the kind of contraction that some of the people are mentioning may also not turn out to be true. So now, coming to what do we anticipate and what were the things that we did. Let me first come to what are the things that we did during this period. I now have about 31 years of experience, and in the Ministry of Finance itself, this is my third stint. So I have also been here in the 2008 financial crisis, and this crisis is way, way above that crisis because it's both supply side and demand side. So while the lives had become very important, the livelihoods also had become very important. This was soon realized by the government, and the packages that you see that were announced by the government actually reflected both the things. While there was an effort to ensure that the health infrastructure goes up, there was also an effort to ensure that the vulnerable section of the society are taken care of. At the same time, this opportunity was taken to come up with some long pending reforms. I recall when I was a young officer in the field and I used to go to my mandi in some small little town of Haryana, and I used to wonder why the farmer is forced to bring his crop here and why he can't sell it anywhere else. So those were the reforms that were ushered in. I would like to dwell a little bit on those reforms that we came up with. For example, the agriculture reforms, there were three major reforms. One was this, the other was the contract farming, and third was the EC Act. On the EC Act, I'll say something very important. I think otherwise the supply chain would never invest in the food infrastructure because they were never sure that when an EC Act would be promulgated and they would be asked to give up their stocks which they had kept for either exports or for processing. So that thing has now happened. Along with it, about 100,000, 1 lakh crore was announced as agri infrastructure. So that is something, along with the animal husbandry, 15,000 crores. So that is something that gave the agriculture some boost. I'll also speak a little more on agriculture when I speak about how I see the recovery happening in the country. Then we also had these reforms in the coal and the mining sector. One other thing which I want to emphasize here before you is that all of you have a complaint with the government that sometimes we announce these reforms, but we never implement. In this particular case, even though in some of the cases legislative changes were required, but the government went ahead through the administrative process for a later ratification by the legislature. For example, the coal mining thing was done. In fact, the mines 41 mines have already come in the market for bidding. Similarly, the mining sector itself is in the process of being unleashed to the private sector. We also brought in some other reforms that I'll be talking about. But what I just want to point out to you at this stage is that this opportunity was snatched in a sense to ensure that we look for an opportunity in this stress for ourselves and see what we can do for the industry. And some of these reforms have actually been implemented. Another important thing that has happened that is very important, and I would like to mention a little more about it, is the production-linked incentive schemes that the government has come out with. We have actually announced one for the mobiles, and that has been set in motion. The second one is on medical equipment and pharmaceuticals. I would like to say that we are in the government working to bring this scheme for another 4 or 5 sectors, which could be sunrise sectors, which could be sectors that have a lot of export potential, or sectors of the future where if we don't do anything at this point of time, we'll be left with no option but to import in large quantities. So this is another area that we are looking at trying to force manufacturing growth in the country. So I just wanted to bring to your notice that these were the kind of reforms and this was the information that was there. So how do I see the next year? That is the more important part. One other thing which I would like to say, you might say I'm talking a little more on agriculture, but why so? Agriculture is one bright spot even in this difficult year. Our production of Rabi was peak. We are expecting a Kharif production also very good harvest for ourselves. While agriculture may not be contributing so much to the GDP today, but it still looks after 40% of our people are directly dependent on agriculture, and more so now that the migrants have actually moved away to the rural areas. So if we have some growth, some prosperity in the rural areas thanks to this agriculture growing up, it will have some effect on manufacturing, services, and growth of certain companies that are, for example, FMCG companies. So that's another positive. How do I see the next year is a very important thing. I have looked at data which has come up from IMF, World Bank, ADB, all the rating agencies. And what we notice is that while there is a shrinkage of the GDP this year, which has been predicted for all the countries, but there has been a good number which has been mentioned for the next year. For example, if I look at India itself, the figures range from 5, 6, 7, and 8% next year. So when I plot them in the graph, there is nothing but I get a V-shaped recovery. So unless COVID hits us very badly and we have to change our strategy in the middle, which seems very unlikely now, I am expecting a V-shaped recovery. Yes, this year may be a lost year for us, but it is not that this will continue in the next year or the next to next year. Yes, after effects will definitely remain, but we should be back to our growth journey from the next year, and I'm very confident about it. Also, from the figures that I'm getting, I would also like to mention to you that the revenue figures are fair. I mentioned that they are fairly okay. I also emphasize this, that for the first 2 months, the devolution to the states was the same as the budgeted estimates. In the next 2 months, which is June and July, our devolution to the states is less by only about 10% and not more than that. So you can then guess that we are not as stressed on those fronts as it appears to be. So what is it that we think and we can do in this whole process? One other thing that I want to mention is that there has been some criticism of the government in terms of the package that we gave, and there was a lot of talk that or people wanted to know what is the fiscal impact of this particular package. India is a vast country. To compare India to any other country would not be a very fair assessment. For example, we just gave 500 rupees to the women Jan Dhan accounts for 3 months, and that itself cost us 30,000 crores. I'm not saying that we could not have done more. I'm just giving you the magnitude and the population that we have. So the whole idea was that how do we bring the economy back on rails? So the supply side was given some emphasis, and there is our evaluation or our estimation that this supply side will work on the demand side if the MSMEs actually start functioning. There are people who are employed there, they will get their wages, and that would lead to some demand side measures also. As you may have seen, that 3 lakh package of the MSME sector has actually done well. There's a lot of emphasis on that. Already about 1,30,000-40,000 crores has been sanctioned, and more than 75,000 has been dispersed from there. I would also like to mention that this has got us thinking, and we are looking at expanding this and bringing more number of people under this scheme so that this benefit could also go to a larger number of industries, so people who are facing stress on that side could also come back. Another issue that is of emphasis, that is what came out in the Atmanirbhar package also in very strongly, was the privatization. I will not speak much because my colleague has already spoken to you about privatization, but monetization is also something that we are emphasizing. In the last few months that I have been here, we have actually been working with railways and road transport and trying to work out models for monetization of assets so that we can get more funding. As of today, there's a lot of dependence on the government funding on all these institutions, so that needs to be dispersed. And it is not that there is no interest right now. There's a lot of interest. For example, the railway stations that were just came up for bidding, those railway stations actually have received a number of bids and a lot of interest. The rail privatization, in the sense of running of trains, there was a pre-bid conference and at least 20 companies were there in the pre-bid conference, and good names were already there. So there's a lot of thinking there. So similarly, we are thinking and we are working with the power, roads, rail, shipping to see how this can be further quickened the process and we can actually get more funds for infrastructure spend. Coming to this, I would also like to say that the emphasis of the government is also on infrastructure spend. I have personally spoken to the large infrastructure spend departments of the country, and I have assured them that even if I have to borrow a little more, I'll do that, but you should actually achieve your targets for infrastructure spend in the current year. With little private investment coming into the whole economy, I feel this is one area that we need to keep emphasizing on. So we are working with these major departments, railways, roads, power, in doing this. At the same time, there are CPSCs who have large plans of spend on infrastructure, on capital investment. So that is also being kept a watch on, and almost 2 to 3 lakh crores is going to be spent by CPSCs. We have done a few meetings with them. We are monitoring their performance, and now that movement of people has been eased in the country relatively more than what it was, we find that there is progress on these two fronts. On the monetization, I would also like to mention specifically the airports. We had come up with 6 airports after a very, very long time and a very long thought process. The bid conditions were eased out and we got 6 airports on PPP mode. There are 2 lots of another 6 and 6 that are ready to come out. So there is now this feeling that, yes, we need to have new models and there is no need for the companies to be in these kind of businesses. Going a little ahead of what I think the Secretary Deepam said, I would also like to mention that when I look at my CPSCs, I also find that some of my CPSCs have actually invested in very good companies downstream. They have either investments, for example, Airport Authority itself has 12 to 13% investment in Bangalore and Hyderabad and 26% in Bombay and Delhi. So as we are working on strategic and non-strategic sectors for the CPSCs at the government level, there is a similar thought process that I have pushed in for people to think for these companies also, that whether we can get the animal spirits of the private sector in all these areas which are not strategic and ensure that the economy gets faster wheels to move and a greater multiplier effect happens to ensure that the economy improves better. On the capital markets, I read your chairman, SEBI, has mentioned a lot. I completely agree with him on a lot of issues that he's mentioned. There are some coordination issues, and that is the reason that he put the ball in government's court. So I'll be working along with the regulators to ensure whether we can, but the point is very well taken. There is reluctance on the part, there is risk, aversion in the banks to lend, especially for project finance. We have to look at other avenues, and one major avenue that is available to us, which we need to deepen further, is the bond market. So it is in that context that the government will soon be also coming out with a proposal for a development financial institution and a credit enhancement company, so that all these measures are also measures that can help in deepening the corporate bond market. And I fully agree. I think he mentioned a figure of 95 or 96% of bond issuances happen only in the AAA and AA. It's very important for us to broaden that, and we are working with him. He has given us some suggestions. I've requested. Traveling is an issue, so there's a limit to which one can talk virtually, but we are doing that. So that is one thing. Another thing that I'd like to mention to you is the International Financial Service Center, that we are building up in Gandhinagar. So we have appointed the chairman for that, and the whole idea is not only to get the Indians back to the center for raising funds or for their financial needs, for which they go to other exchanges like Dubai, like Singapore, like Hong Kong, like London, but also to get people from outside to come and do their financial transactions on this particular forum. So that is another area that is of focus, and you should actually see a lot happening there in the next 6 months to 1 year. There are some plans which have been set up for that particular organization. There are a lot of opportunities. We don't do aircraft leasing. We don't do gold bullion. So these are the areas that are open to us in that particular exchange. Before I end, I'll just like to say one or two more things. One thing which I would like all of you to notice, and perhaps the world to notice, and this was also mentioned in a conference which I had with the US investors. I actually admire all of you for having ensured that all your offices were kept open even though you were sitting at home. So the back offices of the large insurance, banking, and other institutions of the West, which are located in India, continue to work. The government also played its part, but all of you played your part. Another feature is that India is a developing country, but our markets were kept open. Not a single day was the market closed. So that is another step which shows another feature of our resilience and our effort in ensuring that our markets and our financial system keeps working. I believe Dr. Ajay Bhushan Pandey is speaking to you, but he'll speak to you on digital transactions and digital payments. He's got an authority on that. But I would also say that we are now also working on these digital transactions, whether we can use so much of data that is available to us in the GSTN platform, in other platforms, to ensure that through this digital data, can we ensure lending to these smaller sections, the SMEs and the others, only through the digital mode where they would not need to fill up many forms. So some pilots have already happened with some 4 or 5 banks, and we are looking forward to also expanding that. Without taking much time, I know I've gone all over, but my whole idea was to give you some kind of overall of what we are thinking, how the economy is functioning. I'll close my comments here, and we'll look forward to any questions that you may have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your extremely broad brush approach to explaining the developments that are happening despite adverse circumstances in the economy. Some of the suggestions, for example, in relation to monetization of assets in the rail segment and in the airport segment are welcome. The effect of such monetization would be significant in that these are high value assets and are bound to have significant cash flow or cash receipt. The question, sir, that I had is that would this be more revenue sharing or sale of assets that you are indicating? Because the previous round is more in the sense of a revenue sharing model, and there is no real asset price as such. So I just wanted to know whether my understanding of monetization in the context of airports or railways is more a revenue sharing model, or is it a asset price model? That was the first question I had.
Mr. Shroff, we are looking at various models, but at the moment, as you have seen it in the airports, it's basically a concession that is being provided for, say, 50 or 60 years for the, so he basically has the option of spending and then doing. In the case of airports, we have not gone for a revenue share, but we have gone for a per passenger fee. So we are also trying to ease the process and having no disputes. So the risks are also being balanced. On the railways also, it is right now a concession model. But if the concession is for, say, 50, 60 years, for example, very soon we have come up with the smaller stations. We would soon be coming up with Delhi and Bombay also with a long period of a concession. So I think for that period, they would have that facility, and it is basically based on various models. One is the bid model, one is the annuity model coming from the other side. What is the money that you can pay per year? But it's a 60-year or even in some cases, we are also going for a 99-year concession. The whole idea is to de-risk the private party as much as possible, because what we realized initially that our PPP failed because we did not take the risk in the government and put all the risks on you, and that had to fail, and that is the lesson that we.
Thank you so much. I think that makes a lot of the process clearer. For that, it enables private investment to take place in modernization of the airports or in modernization of the stations, and also in the process of the running of the railways. Sir, in relation to the MSME segment, there are concessions which are already operating, but because of the IBC having been suspended, it becomes a redundancy. If, for example, there is no new case being filed, the structure of providing an additionality really is not addressing the question of how do you tackle bankruptcy. So, would you be running these two programs simultaneously, in the sense that would you be giving corporate resolution for MSMEs because you have a larger plan and a more relaxed plan, or all of this will be at the expiry of the moratorium? Today is 6 months.
Mr. Shroff, I would not like to give you any incorrect information on this. My colleague in the Corporate Affairs Ministry is actually working on it, and I think it should soon be coming out. So I'll just stop there and not say anything. But I can come to you offline on that.
Thank you so much. Sir, in relation to the instruments which have yesterday been spoken out on the REITs and the investment trusts, are there any further concessions which have been sought in relation to these instruments? Because these have just started, their process of raising funds is ongoing. And any evidence or any information to you of the success of these, or is there any change which is being expected by the issuers?
I think we are in early days of InvITs and rates at the moment, but there is a lot of traction for this to the extent that in the government itself, we are now we are moving ahead and having the first InvIT in the road sector. The power sector is also working on creating one. On the concessions that we have recently announced is the concessions on long-term capital gains to the sovereign funds for investment in infrastructure. So that is one area that has been there. To tell you very frankly, Mr. Shroff, what I have noticed in my period is that when we usher in a few reforms, we say, ho gaya, and that's it. And you say, yeah, and you come back to us the very next minute to say that these are the three other things. And I think it's a very healthy thing to happen. We are a developing economy. We can't close ourselves. We are sitting in some offices in the North Block and the South Block. We need to interact with you. We need to understand how things function at the ground level. So, yes, it's an ongoing process. I don't say it's ending.
Thank you so much. Sir, in relation to the suggestion that you have given for the IFSC, where Mr. Srinivasan from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has become the chairman, there would be a lot of background rule making which would be required, and specimen documentation so as to make the bullion transactions or the aircraft leasing feasible in India. The general trend is to go to Ireland to do aircraft leasing and aircraft financing, because the environment in terms of taxation is very, very attractive. Would the government be thinking along the lines as to how Ireland became the main center of aircraft leasing and try and give an equivalence principle so that aircraft leasing does move to Asia and to the Gandhinagar market?
Mr. Shroff, speaking to you very directly on this question is that uh, we are looking at what the structures are in these various places.
Yes, sir.
IFSC also might form some groups to study and give them some suggestions on that.
Yes, sir.
At the same time, we are also conscious of the fact that we cannot create an environment that we become a tax haven in that sense. So keeping this as a factor, we are looking at what we can do. And to tell you very frankly, recently I had a meeting with the Revenue Secretary, and there were some 2-3 issues in terms of people trying to have the same benefit which they have in Singapore, because IFSC is a platform where you don't need to be present there. You can actually trade from anywhere else. So facilitation in terms of if somebody is trading in Singapore, can he trade in IFSC also or not? Or should he go through again your regulation and rule making? So everybody is conscious of that. The Revenue Secretary was quite appreciative of our concerns, and he worked out a method. So I can only assure you at this stage that the whole idea is to make it a vibrant financial center of the world, and we'll do all that with the caveat that I mentioned.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, in terms of the digitization programs that you mentioned, that we need to really look at the question in terms of, I'm getting an indication from Mr. Sandai that we are nearing the time limit for you. I'll just ask this last question and end it. In terms of digitization, is the expectation to really replace the long form or the manual forms and really work on a click model? Is that what you indicated, or you want the Finance Secretary to address that question in the last session?
No, he can address that thing. What I would like to say is that it is very difficult to say that I'll switch off my bulb and switch on my tube light. So
Yes.
I have to keep both the things open for some time. The whole idea is facilitation. All of us know it's nothing new that if I am a street vendor or I am a small-time shopkeeper, I don't have any financial history. So our institutions are actually working on paper. They don't work on person. So if I can create that history through this digital mode and give it to a lender, that is how I'm helping. So we have actually experimented and done these experiments in the past few weeks. We have engaged very heavily with the Reserve Bank of India and the GSTN, and we have cracked the GSTN. You can check up with Dr. Ajay Bhushan Pandey when he comes. And we are working with RBI. If that happens, this will be another nice forum where people can actually look at. So, for example, I'll just elaborate a bit. When I go to a platform and I have issued an invoice to you, so until you accept it, the banker will not lend.
Right.
So, but in this case, if there's a history of GSTN data that is coming or the other data of my electricity bills that is coming, we might lend it without bothering for that invoice.
I understand. Thank you so much, sir, for your detailed clarifications in the short time that we have available. We would have loved to have you more for a longer time and understand some of the issues which help in really understanding the way forward. And we're indeed grateful to you for even this small understanding or discussion that we have just to amplify what you have indicated. We're indeed grateful for your presence today, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Shroff, and thank you, Vicky,
Sir,
for having me in.
Your
I think
last
Sunil wants 2 minutes.
your last 2 minutes. I just want to brief you, and if you have even 2 minutes to the questions from audience, I just want to brief you on those questions because there have been number of questions from both media, bankers, corporates, from all sections of people. I'll just categorize the way you said you spoke on the range of issues. Actually, the questions are also all over the range of topics. I think they want answer from everything. So there is one question on question number 3 on the FDI. There's a question on bank recapitalization and the banking privatization. I'm just bucketing it. There are a number of questions in that. There's a question on the fiscal deficit monetization. There's a question on data protection. whether data is expected. Then there are questions on further stimulus packages and all. So there are number of whichever you want to address. If you want to just before you go, if you want to just touch upon some of them. Maybe press note 3. We can start with that.
I think on the bank privatization, Mr. Tuhin Pandey had addressed yesterday. So if there's any specific question, I'm very pleased to answer that. But the government has come out with a very clear policy, and I would say after 1956, this is the policy that the government says that I'll not be in business. Even in a strategic area, I'll be there only in a limited. So whether banks are strategic or non-strategic, which Mr. Tuhin Pandey will declare in a few days, he's keeping close to his chest, though he's shared it with us. I think that's a process that should happen. So there is no, it's a matter of time, and the intention of the government is very clear on that front. On the fiscal side, you mentioned, I was hoping that you would ask me questions on that. So I thought Mr. Shroff has been very kind to me to ask that question. If you recall, I joined this office in the month of May, and as soon as I finished with the packages and the FM's announcements, my budget division was garroting my office and telling me that we need to do something. And if you recall, I have increased the borrowing of the government by 50%. It was close to 8 lakh crores and we made it 12 lakh crores. At this point of time, I have made some calculations. And obviously, you would not expect me to share those calculations with you. I've made some calculations. I have some plans in mind. I keep watching it every week. I analyze it very carefully. Let me say that the RBI also has assisted us in a great deal during this time. But at this point of time, that monetization is not on my table at all. It has not been discussed with the central bank also. Let me see how it goes, because Dr. Ajay Bhushan Pandey has given me hope. When he comes, you can, apart from other questions, also ask him this question, that the revenues are going up, and I have nothing to hide. You would also see that we also mobilize some extra revenue through excise duties on petroleum. So that is also something that is going to help us in this particular year. Let's see. I'll be better able to answer that in the next, after 3 months or 4 months, when I have more data on hand. Anything else, Mr. Sunil?
Sir, press note 3.
Press note 3. Yes. Press note 3, I don't know what is it that you want to know on press note 3. Press note 3 is something that is FDI, right? So it is restricted only to FDI. I think we have to accept this point of view that when it comes to national security and sovereignty of the country, your and my interest or anybody's interest is secondary to that. So I have nothing more to add to that. And if you see exactly, even after that, the FDI flows that are happening in the country, it has not had any major impact. I would say it has not had any impact at all. So I think that's a non-issue at this point of time.
I think what people are expecting, sir, is a clarification around the definition that from the press note 3.
So you're asking for a clarification on the beneficial ownership, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, they are working on it. We have suggested them something. We have a definition of a beneficial owner in the FPI, if you know, to the PMLA route.
Yes.
So that's a very clear-cut definition. So we have given a lot of suggestions to DPIIT. So they are working on it. Hopefully they'll come back with it. But that is something we'll live with it and we will work on it. It's not such an issue. Actually, people have not come to me in hordes to ask me something about it.
Okay.
Sunil, I'm okay to take one more question before I run away from this place.
Sir, so the other question was more on the data, the data privacy, and there's a bill expected on that, I believe. There is a bill?
There is already a bill in the parliament. There is already a bill in the parliament on data privacy, and that has actually been debated a great deal in the open forum. A lot of suggestions came, a lot of companies came. I recall having a few meetings in my earlier avatar when I was looking after this area. So that bill is already there. If you have any issues, you're most welcome even to tell me. So we can look into that.
One supplementary question. Any thoughts?
Yeah,
on
sure.
the
Sorry?
thoughts on the bad bank? There was a discussion around, so I just got a question on that. The thoughts around creating a bad bank, that was a discussion which was there.
You're not getting the financial services secretary on this meet. I leave it to him. I've had a few discussions, so we have still not arrived at a conclusion on that. So I'll leave it to him. It's his area. So, public forum, I would not like to say anything.
Totally understand. Totally understand. I invite Secretary General to just propose a quick vote of thanks. Philip?
It's a pleasure really to thank you, Mr. Bajaj, for being with us and for your candid interchange with Shradul, but also for answering the questions that were raised by the participants. I know that you have to rush, so just a very, very warm thank you, and we look forward to continuing to interact with you and look forward to your advice and suggestions on how we can partner together to grow the economy and get growth back. So thank you very much for being with us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dilip. Thank you, Vicky, and thank you, Mr. Shroff. I really enjoyed the session. Thank you.
Thank you.